Every adult loves to do this from their own high seat. Is it done randomly or with your own intelligible patterns to predict the good or bad outcome? Or are we confusing randomness with forgetfulness? As any lesson should be learned, even if you've gone through it multiple times, it is left behind as a mistake. Forgetting isn't randomness as described, but if you forget the mistake, then lose to it. Randomness is just life trying to continue. Knowing all of that, what's the sickness we certainly don't diagnose specifically? That brings us back to the movie. Nicolas Cage has been given the most obvious note from a god whispering in a child's ear, which is more likely than it just happening in their child head. A god meaning compared to people as someone that's learned to live a couple thousand years through higher understanding. Dumb doesn't live long as smart, not highly unlikely. Someone wrote absolute proof of caused events that murdering thousands of innocent lives to prove that they don't matter because we allow ourselves to trust each other through forgetting and not intelligible patterns. Allowing mistakes to repeat by confusing trust with the occurrence of forgetting, knowing for a fact that something is occurring the next day and it not instantaneously spreading faster than wildfire to stop it is proof that life on this planet is occurring through randomness and not intelligible patterns, seeking more intelligible patterns. Randomness dividing and secluding intelligible patterns for them not to find each other. Randomness isn't dividable. I would absolutely repent immediately with that proof, especially after strike 1 and 2 events, to start from, not mentioning all those previous dates. But we look to doubt it, considering all of us randomly scam each other for money. Rejected, only the discoverer who knows for certain where the note came from possesses the willpower this gift given grants. If intelligible patterns connected with intelligible patterns, bringing new intelligible patterns, seeking better intelligible patterns, then we would be occurring through randomness, as all randomness is intersections of intelligible patterns. But no, there are life forms that forget and appear randomly without an intelligible pattern. Why doesn't he forget after receiving proof, as did his colleague, with no evidence of following intelligible patterns, as he stated he believed randomness? All intelligible patterns promise reward, or randomness wouldn't appear to make a pattern its host. If you don't forget this, do you become a god? A god only occurs within intelligible patterns, probably with access to enough intelligible patterns where all randomness is thwarted. Being part of an intelligible pattern compares you to those who forget, making you not approachable. But if you are hosting their randomness until they are the intelligible pattern, it's a battle. This disconnection within the same species is evidence enough to identify who's sick and who's not, especially when the sickness isn't an option given. Sickness is the whole world announced just to test each sense for an intelligible pattern. Intelligible patterns are there waiting for those who look for it. Are the sick just randomness controlled by the willpower of those who possess intelligible patterns? Not when each can stop occurring randomly, only by looking for intelligible patterns. How do we coincidentally get here after a rock coincidentally obtains its own crystal clear water for an infinite amount of a variety of life forms to occur? Not mentioning a species capable of conducting the process. How? Only those who aren't choosing the sickness know, and those who don't forget are knowing. As the girl proved psychic phenomena possible by channeling the dates chosen by the one she is intercepting it from, performing such a heroic, instinctive feat got her sick. Sick enough to show everyone that extrasensory capabilities can cause you to go haywire, as you need to be able to contain yourself as you are burning calories at such a larger ratio than you would doing normal things. The one who selected the dates to kill people experimentally proves psychic phenomena to be possible too. Choosing a date to attack proves that the girl knowing would have stopped it if people were seeking intelligible patterns. She is odd to those who knew her and obviously tried to share her knowing. Keeping everyone safe from this murdering experimenter is an instinct for intelligible patterns. Certainly a mind to a mind, there's a transmission. Using a black rock to induce a transmission isn't this experimenter's experiment. His experiment isn't to prove that a mind to a mind has a transmission. The girl's mind is activated at an extrasensory level just by accepting someone possessing intelligible patterns. A child is more likely to want intelligible patterns because a child most likely hasn't been dragged into forgetting yet by the other Randys. The whispers are the fast-forwarding of the unworthy thoughts that make up the malice of the world, filtering through those between her and the man, part of the elite. Knowing this plan to kill for 50 years, knowing that the time capsule is dug up in 50 years. After the capsule is unleashed, the son finds it, then his father finds the paper, and by telling someone they know he has it because they're watching. The boy has a stone, then his father has the stone. The stones are the experimenter's psychic suggestive fields. The dad is interested, boosting the effect all the way, giving his unconscious self the answers by not putting anything else in mind. He arrives at the GPS location coincidentally at the correct time. You ask or seek, and you shall receive. I've done it myself over and over again, writing, finding the answers to my questions as it flows onward. It's faster through rhyming, and I will provide plenty of examples. And you are where the answers are, for you are knowing and not the randomness around you. If someone has proven something to their self, no one will let them prove out loud, as you knowing becomes the randomness, as if it's the unwise thing to do. The experimenters had to show themselves to the child and the father to instigate them a little into paranoia for the father to put it all together. Once again, if you can feel there's a spine-tingling, spooky vibe emanating from the movie. That is how much fear activated from someone because they aren't capable of figuring out the meaning. Meaning is meant to be exciting as it gives you new meaning for yourself. If you let yourself connect to a movie, you become empathic to it. If you let yourself connect to a movie, you become empathic to it. That's part of perception analysis. Implanted by the writer not to cause that fear, but for us who do solve the puzzles and connect the dots to find his or her fantastical summation of reality. Producing enough effect, making you afraid enough to start trying to figure it out, is only a dreamer's dream and one of the very motives of. I can tell you of the exact time I was scared by something and it sent me on my way to where I am now. Little boosts like a movie send you on your way to bettering, leaving the lag behind of the possibility of not bettering. But how did the girl guess the exact amount of deaths? Maybe the movie's a confession by those who are always knowing and seeking to prove people are not only wrong but respond as the opposition to everything that has been proven to one or more to be true. The death count told to us on the news can be false, as anything can be shown to us that isn't true. You only need money. Paying for it, knowing it doesn't matter how many deaths people can stop it. It isn't different. The experimenters are those in charge giving the decision to the child they chose, or children. Knowing after solving the mystery, it isn't possible to share, and the experimenters will not change it for people what to do but be like everyone else with faith. The girl who wrote the dates down dies, or so we're told. Sound familiar? People realize there are those who make the decisions and blame them for everything, although they are given the information to stop bad from happening. People can decide too, so neither decide blaming each other. The sun flare isn't real, and the whole species of man knows, but are liars and live their scripts as Randys don't suffer conscious obligations. They start burning from the sun because they're told to, but they are nuked. It isn't a sun flare, it's a nuke. The alien ships are easily made by man, and most people are so unhealthy, unawareness isn't there. The best technologies aren't given to the masses. They pick up all the children who hear the call with their brains and drop them off where they didn't drop nukes. With all the pressure around the globe, everyone's forced to exert. Plenty of reason to trust the experimenters who only test you masked as aliens, for they are that to Randys, possessing intelligible patterns. Or perhaps too much intelligible patterns. At the end, dropped off the world seems alien, but children without the people see nature with extraterrestrial sensory perception, or how it should be, so all life forms' beauty is shown. The end. Back to the experimenter's reason to execute. The girl at the beginning is knowing for 50 years that there are killings, but she is odd, possessing an intelligible pattern. One separates her from us Randys. But forgetting becomes randomness, and she passes. Knowing becomes the subduing smiting of randomness, like any god versus monsters or giants. At the end, if the father had began knowing for a moment, he would have went with him. But such a shift is sensed by an adult who can think, and without time to weigh options, his unconscious randomness takes charge, and he becomes a coward by default. He's an adult, and they gave him the extra moment to decide upon the spur. The decision is burn in a nuke or live happily ever after without the time to think. This movie is a divine metaphor for Randys, or those with intelligible patterns. People choose the wrong option, wanting the best for everyone. Forgetting isn't not remembering, it is missing the point of what all of it is for. Knowing isn't forgetting, although possessing intelligible patterns requires you to forget in order to find new intelligible patterns. Forgetting altogether means you are sick and shut down to heal. But to heal, you need to be not destructive to the intelligible patterns for them to heal you. People miss their chance every day. That's my take of the movie, knowing it. This is perception analysis. I've been wanting to start a show I call a lyrical perception analysis with a panel, and each of us with our fullest perception of the song ready. We share what we see, maybe put it all together with different channels of perception. Sometimes, having already discussed the song together, we can do something with it. Each panel seat will share a relative something of their own because that seems to be a reflex for most of us. Recognizing similarity, although with the perception analysis, it is the concept of the song. Doing a movie or book here and there in between. Perception doesn't intertwine with opinion, for opinions never meet, but likeness. For opinions never meet, but by likeness, where useless arguments start. This is to teach the world what a song is for, what it is, and not what it isn't. I left you with a word, experimenter. It's experiment and mentor combined. For you to, I left it for you to think with. Although I rushed this a little, and I wanted to stop, the information is a benefit. If a benefit for you is similar to part of a science book I'm writing in progress. Another reason I asked for financial help. Maybe I'll do a final draft of this writing and do an official review with funding one day. I thought it very useful to separate us between randomness and intelligible patterns.